Is the holiday rush making you manic? And are porch pirates taking everything you ordered online as soon as it arrives? And does the hecticness of the holidays make you want to end it all forever? Wait a minute, don't do anything rash yet. Essay here, and when I'm not on the computer, sounding like a complete doofus, I'm also a published author, and I got a deal for you. Sit down and relax with Glitch, a precarious duo, and its sequel, Glitch, The Future is Unwritten. This American book series combines literary fiction and crime thriller to keep you entertained for hours. And it's on sale now, not 10, not 20, but 50% off. It's available on Kindle and paperback. The links are below in description. And unlike other Christmas gifts, you don't have to worry about porch pilots stealing it off your device. And you can order it as soon as you put your Christmas cookies in the oven. But don't take too long because the sale's only good for the end of the year. And I'm not some one-hit wonder. I have other books coming down the pike. So if nothing unexpected happens to me,
I demand that you shoot me now.
you'll see those other books soon enough. Now let's get back to the video. Hello again. Essay here. Anyone who has been paying attention to the events of the past 12 months would probably have a lot of pessimism, cynicism, and perhaps a little, I don't know, the blahs, or feeling tedium, boredom, whatever. And of course, anyone who's been paying attention to the events just of the past 30, 60 days would have real concern about the future. You know, where's it all leading to? Well, funny thing is, this is not something new. Indeed, something like this happened over 100 years ago in France. In fact, they had a word for it. Fin de siècle. I think I'm pronouncing it right, but it translates in English as being the end of century. Now, of course, you say, so what does that do with us? Well, funny thing is, back in as the 19th century is winding down, the French, they felt that the turn of the century was not just a date on a calendar. They thought it was something monumental was coming. And it basically referred to a period that was widely felt of social degeneracy. And you say, so what? We always had degeneracy. Yeah, well, this was different. See, these Frenchies back then, they felt that while the coming of a new century, the 20th century, would be a time of hope for a new beginning, there were people at the same time who felt that they were concerned that it could lead to even a more awful period than what passed in the 19th century. And indeed, this fin de siècle, I'm not French, so pardon me with my pronunciation. Uh, People at the time felt that it would lead to things that the rise of geopolitics, which was a new term back then. The term didn't really exist before this time period, and that in turn, modern scholars looking back in that period felt that that in turn was a precursor to fascism, communism, and all the other isms that were prevalent in the 20th century. And yet, at the same time, this fin de siècle, uh, it did have a major theme. It was basically a revolt against materialism, rationalism, positivism, and general liberal democracy and even bourgeoisie society. And what does that sound like to you? Yeah, it sounds like those wokesters hanging out at Harvard, Yale, and MIT. Yeah, in fact, just recently, Tucker Carlson, talking to Tim Pool, he spoke about how MIT was working on a new version of AI. And you say, so what? Everybody in Silicon Valley is working on AI. Tucker Carlson said this was different. He said this AI supposedly is being instilled with the Ten Commandments, but not the biblical version. Oh, no, 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 no. In fact, Tucker referred to it almost as a satanic version of the Ten Commandments. And he mentioned the whole list. I don't remember the whole list, but one of the things that was part of these 10 commandments being instilled in this IBM version of AI was that white people are inherently evil and racist. And I'm thinking, why in the devil would you put that in the damn AI? Because anyone who remembers Isaac Asimov, I, Robot book series, remembers that there was 4 rules of robotics. And one of those rules was do not harm humans and do not allow humans to be harmed. And yet these people over there at IBM are doing something that is inherently, harmful. But anyway, back to the point I was trying to make with fin de siècle. Those old Frenchies, they really felt, some of them really felt that something bad was coming down the pike. And indeed, there were people such as Oscar Wilde who felt that they were not really optimistic about the coming century. In fact, they were very pessimistic about it. And there were even Victorian writers from that time, such as Robert Louis Stevenson, Bram Stoker, and a few others, who felt that they were entering a world of a coming world of degradation and anxiety about the coming century. And yet there were others who were just on the polar opposite of that view. In fact, around that same period, there were people who were embracing a different French term called Belle Epoque, which loosely translate as the beautiful age or the beautiful era. And these people were optimistically looking towards the future. And they felt that despite what happened in the past, during the Napoleonic era and whatnot, they were looking forward and saying, yes, despite humanity's ability to be numbskulls, uh, they felt that there was a chance for peace, economic prosperity, technological and scientific development, and innovation, as well as the flourishing of the arts and literature and stuff like that. Of course, if any of those people from the France of the past were able to, like, put them in a TARDIS and bring them forward 100 years and take them to look back at the century that was, I wonder if they would be surprised. I'm not sure. Really am not. And yet, as anyone who's read a history book knows how the 20th century turned out. Yeah. Had two major world wars, a major Cold War. You had all kinds of revolutions, all kinds of mayhem and death. And then, and yet, even here and now, in the 2020s, not everyone is basically not wanting to be consumed or internalized by the prospects for the future. In other words, will it be as awful as the 20th century, or would it be worse, or would it be better? Well, no man knows the future. They don't. I mean, you can try to exercise some influence on the future. That way it turns out better, but in the end, someone like smart people said you can you can hope for the best, but you should plan for the worst. I'm thinking, yeah, you should. Why do you think people buy insurance? Because people expect to live a long life, but sometimes things happen. Therefore, you have health insurance. Or people buy car insurance because you hope to go from point A to point B without any problems, but then some bus might run into you, tear up your car. Therefore, you have insurance. Problem is, when it comes to society, when it comes to human destiny, there's no such thing as insurance. You can't insure the future. I mean, it would be nice if you could, get a piece of paper and fill out all the various parameters and pay your little, fee and say, yeah, I just insured the future. That way the future will be healthy and wealthy and wise. I don't have to worry about anything bad happening, and if something does happen, at least I'm insured. Problem is, human civilization just doesn't work like that. Just doesn't. Because I remember Carl Sagan, he spoke about the future that could have been. Indeed, and you can look it up because it was in that old program of his, Cosmos. Great program. You should watch it sometime. Great documentary. Came out back around 1980. Excellent. You should watch it sometime. Very good. But anyway, he spoke about this guy. I never heard of him before. He was an engineer who lived back in the first century. I think it was the first century BC. Yeah, I think it was first century BC, or maybe in first century AD. I always get kind of confused on that stuff. But he lived in Alexandria, Egypt. His name was Heron. And this guy, he was an engineer. And he experimented with steam contraptions. And he created a machine. Okay, we wouldn't really call it a machine. It was more like a toy. It was not very big. It was small. I think it was called an aeropile, an aeroplane. No, not like an airplane that we know airplane. No, 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 no. It's pronounced like that, but it's spelt differently. And it was basically a little ball with a couple of holes in it, and you put water inside of it, and and seal it up, and you would heat the ball, and then when the water turned to steam, the ball would spin. And Carl Sagan said that this guy, he had built a lot of little steam powered contraptions like that, almost toys. But then you're gonna love this part because you have to watch the program. He showed how this guy Heron had all the rudimentary parts for a modern steam locomotive. Carl Sagan said it was all there. He just had to put the pieces together the right way. And then he said that if this guy had done that, the Romans would have had their own industrial age. Now remember, anyone who knows history about Roman history knows that they were around for about almost 1,000 years. And of course, if you add the Byzantines, okay, almost 2,000 years. But anyway, and he said that the Romans, say like the first, second, or third century AD, would have had their own industrial age. I mean, just imagine that. Those people, those old Romans, having steam locomotives or steam powered machines, perhaps connected to a dynamo, making electricity for electric lighting back then. I mean, just imagine that. And then Carl Sagan went one step further. He said that if that had occurred, and if human technology and development continued forward, it could have led to humans developing, are you ready? Starships during the time of Leonardo da Vinci and Galileo. Yeah, the Italian Renaissance. And I said, like, what? Really? Yeah, I mean, Carl Sagan, he was very optimistic about that. He said that, yeah, if if Heron had built the first steam locomotive, proper steam piston engine back then, first century BC, first century, that could have led to an industrial age during the Roman era. And then when you apply the industrial age as it corresponds to us here and now, and all the various technology developments that came with the industrial age, the electronic age, the atomic age, and the space age. It meant, Carl Sagan, he just went wild with his speculation. He said that, yeah, he was extrapolating. He said, if you take all the things that we know from our industrial age to now and applied it to the Romans, Carl Sagan said, yeah, by the time the Middle Ages the Italian Renaissance rolled around, 14th, 15th century, we would have had starships, like Star Trek, or at the very least, Star Wars, Han Solo, Millennium Falcon, stuff like that. And I mean, I was a kid at the time watching this program. And I think that put the zap on my head. I said, like, wow, really? You sure? I mean, the very idea was just crazy to me. But then when you look at the history of human development, it's like we would take one step forward and three steps back. Because how many people recall Roman concrete? Say, what the hell is that? Yeah, I didn't know what it was either. But it's a type of concrete that the Romans developed that was impervious to seawater. And I said, well, don't they make concrete now that's impervious to seawater? Well, yeah, but the Romans had made something similar 20 centuries ago. And then the secret was lost. It was lost for centuries until rediscovered in our timeline, 20th century. And working toilets, running water. Romans had that too. They also had something called Greek fire. and Damascus steel. Supposedly, it was a type of steel, you know, generally impervious to corrosion, very tough. They had all these things, and then, as the history books tell us, the Roman Empire collapsed, and the secrets to all this stuff was lost. Now, of course, we rediscovered, running water and Roman concrete, but Damascus steel, Greek fire, the secrets of that has been lost forever. And of course, you say, but don't they have napalm nowadays? Yeah, but napalm is not the same as Greek fire. I mean, if you read the few historical texts that mentions Greek fire, it was sort of like what we would call a modern day flamethrower. And yet these people had this stuff over 20 centuries ago. And yet civilizations collapse and all that scientific development is lost, gone. So then how does that apply to us in the here and now? Well, when you look at what was going on with those Frenchies during their Belle Epoque, and of course the people who were worried about, end of century, how it might not turn out as well as they hoped, you have to have concerns about what might be waiting for us in the next 50 to 100 years. I mean, we could go through our own beautiful age with all sorts of fantastical developments in science, technology, and culture that no one could imagine. Or we could just simply have a cultural societal collapse like the Romans did, in the 4th century. No man knows the future. You can always hope for the best and expect the worst. And yet, when you witnessed what's been happening in the world just within the last 12 months, you could be like very cynical, very pessimistic about what might happen next. And yet, Tim Pool, yeah, I know, I like the guy. He's optimistic because every day when you see these people, these wokesters, causing chaos and anarchy with their ridiculous protests, for Hamas, the damn terrorist group, storming into various public places, like blocking freeways, like happened here in California, or storming Christmas parties and starting fistfights with the guest. Yeah, it makes you wonder if things just going to get worse in the coming year or in the coming decades. And indeed, there's a video right now. You can see it's on the computer where it has a bunch of knuckleheads from, I don't think it was a Northwestern university. It was a different university, where these people were talking about Turtle Island. And you say, what's that? Is that like somewhere near the Hawaiian Islands? No, 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 no. It's a leftist term. I never heard of it before. I had to look it up. And it's a leftist term that refers to North America. And you say, what? Yeah. I said, what? Yeah. Apparently, it's from Iroquois mythology. Apparently, the Iroquois thought that what we call the American continent they referred to it in their mythology as a great turtle. And I'm thinking, what? Really, dude? And then I thought about that and I said, wait a minute. I remember there was, I think it was in ancient Greece. And of course, anyone who knows Carlos Santana knows what I'm talking about. The Greeks somehow thought that the earth itself, the flat earth people, but this was like way back, thought that the earth was a flat disc sitting on, are you ready? Sitting on the backs of four elephants. And they were in turn standing on the back of, are you ready? A gigantic turtle walking slowly through the universe. And you say, damn, sounds like someone's hitting the damn mushy Roombas again. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, this was from like way back. This was like, Jesus, I think it was like during the time of the Mycenaean Greeks, like Jesus, during the time of the Trojan War. And of course, you say, well, those people, they were ignorant anyway. They didn't know anything about cosmology. And I'm thinking, yeah, true. But apparently, the Iroquois people had a similar belief that that's what North America was. That North America was a great turtle. And I'm thinking, well, where'd they get that concept from? They should think that made some cross-pollination happen, huh? That some of those ancient Greeks somehow ended up in North America and conveyed that story about the weird flat earth sitting on top of the elephants and the giant turtle, and the Iroquois people kind of bastardized it and just called North America the Turtle Island, or the Great Turtle. And I'm thinking, yeah, that sounds kind of ignorant. But anyway. And anyway, back to these wokesters. They were sitting there complaining in this video, you can look it up, that Turtle Island needs to be decolonized. Now, of course, decolonize is a nice little catchphrase, which basically means get rid of all the Europeans. And you say, get rid of them to where? Well, as far as these wokesters are concerned, let's not even pretend, okay? Let's not even pretend. When they're talking about decolonization, they're talking about killing people. And you say, oh, so these people are about genocide. Yeah. Remember I told you in a previous video about these idiot wokesters? Upon the ashes of the old, we will build anew. See, it's all leading towards the same thing. These wokesters and their stupid catchphrases like Turtle Island and decolonization, it's all about basically wiping out what we call America, the United States, and replacing it with Soviet Union 2.0. I mean, that's what these people are about. They're all dedicated Marxist-Leninists. Of course, they sit there and try to lie and pretend that they're not, and they say, oh, we just care about brown people. And I say, oh, get out of here. You don't care about brown people. You care about your leftist revolution, so shut the fuck up, you weirdos. And therefore, when you look at videos like that, like I say, you can look it up on the internet. It's floating around there. You do have concern about the future. I mean, if these crazy wokesters coming out of these university systems get their way, they're going to cause a Holocaust in this continent that you would not believe. I mean, forget about, in other words, you remember what the fascists did in Europe back in 1930s and 40s. Well, these wokesters are sitting there saying, hold my beer. And they'll probably create a massive Holocaust in North America if these people get half their chance. They said it won't be Jews that be sent to the damn gas chambers and the damn furnaces. They're going to round up all the Europeans. And the crazy thing about it is most of these wokesters, they're stupid, crazy white kids from the suburbs. And I'm thinking, dude, have you looked in the fucking mirror? You're white. What are you talking about rounding up all the white people and killing them for? What are you going to, I mean, like I said, these people, their mind's not right. But then again, some of them, they excuse that little missing part by saying, oh, but we're allies to the brown people. And I said, no, you're not. You're the pigs in the pig pen in Animal Farm. You want to wipe out all the other white people, and then you say, oh, we're the allies of the brown people. And then just like those pigs in Animal Farm, Orwell's book, you're going to take over the Animal Farm, and then you'll be in charge. Don't believe me? Go talk to Jordan Peterson, because he was a dedicated Marxist back when he was a much younger man. Yeah, he says so. He was in the Canadian Communist Party. He said that he quit the Communist Party of Canada when he found out that all his fellow Sputniks, they didn't really care about brown people or poor people or disenfranchised people. They just were jealous of wealth, the millionaires and the billionaires, as Bernie Sanders would say. Because these people were, he said most of these Marxists, like himself, came from good families in the suburbs. But they were not like, super wealthy. They didn't have, Jeff Bezos money. And therefore, according to Jordan Peterson, these commies that he was hanging out with, they wanted to bring about a communist revolution just so they could take the rich people's stuff and make it their own. That was their alpha and omega. And apparently, after 40 plus years, nothing much has changed. You have these wokesters coming out of universities, and they're basically behaving the same way. They only use all these catchphrases like decolonization and garbage like that. But in the end, just what happened to Jordan Peterson back in the 80s when he was a young man, these wokesters are basically just craven, jealous suburban kids who want to have the wealth of Elon Musk but don't want to put in the work to make it happen. Because anyone who knows Elon Musk's bio knows that no one gave him, what does he have, like close to $300 billion? Nobody gave him that money. He didn't inherit that money. He made it. Yeah. The guy, like I said, if you look at Elon Musk's background, he was not a wealthy man. He didn't come from a wealthy family. Every money, all that money he has now came about because he put in the work and created SpaceX, created Tesla, created PayPal. And that's why he's the wealthiest man on earth. Because he put in the work, he made his money, and he didn't go to Vegas and put it all on the roulette wheel. So he put it on black and spin the wheel and see what happens. No, he didn't do that. And that's why he's the wealthiest man on earth. And these wokesters, they're just jealous. And they're lazy. They don't want to put in the work. So, forget about these idiots. Oh, they'll try to make a revolution in order to steal rich people's stuff, but I don't think they're going to succeed. God willing. But yeah. Just like those Frenchies at the end of the 19th century, we can look at the trends and could be concerned about what may be coming down the road towards us in the coming years and in the coming decades of this century that we're in now. We can hope that it'll turn out well, that we can have a Bella Epcot, or we could end up like in the 20th century with more isms and more world wars. Yep. It can go either way. Certainly can. Yeah, well, I guess that's why people build weapons and create armies, I suppose. Pray for peace, but prepare for war. Yep. I guess that's why this time of year, Christmas time, we always say peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Well, hopefully uh, the first part of that phrase will prevail in the coming year. You can only hope. But unfortunately, there's no insurance policy for the future. Well, yeah, you can get insurance for your shitbox Dodge, uh, that pile of Kentlings you call a house, and of course the your own backside. But there's no insuring the future. Nope. Wish there was, but you can't. All we can do is hope and pray and maybe put in a little effort to make sure that the coming months, days, and years will be better than the months, days, and years that we leave behind. I guess that's the only thing we can do. Yep. Because imagine if we could ensure a prosperous existence, a better world for the future. Yep. Imagine that. Because Tim Pool, yeah, I know. He always talks about a Star Trek future. And I'm thinking, yeah, anyone who's watched the original show as well as the next generation says that, yeah, it'd be nice to have replicators and phasers and was it Beam Me Up Scotty, matter transmitters and all that other stuff. But then again, Tim forgot one small little detail. In the Star Trek mythos, a third world war happens first, and most of the Earth gets destroyed. And only by sheer dumb luck does a Vulcan spaceship just happens to be coming past our solar system when, what's the character's name? Cochrane? I mean, anyone who's watched Star Trek, the First Contact knows what I'm talking about, happened to be testing a warp ship, that he slapped together using leftover parts from a Titan missile. I mean, anyone who watched that movie, First Contact, that movie was actually pretty good for a Star Trek film. Yeah, you should watch it sometime. It's actually pretty good. But like I said, that Star Trek future that Tim Pool always talks about, that happened pretty much by accident. Because if the character, Cochrane, had tested his warp ship just a day before or a day after, the Vulcans never would have detected his warp signature, and he would have developed his primitive warp ship, but it wouldn't necessarily would have led to a Star Trek future. That only happened because the Vulcans showed up and helped basically clean up the Earth and basically set our civilization on the right track towards that, Star Trek future. Now, of course, some of you Trekkies out there are probably saying, "Oh, but what about the mirror universe?" Yeah, I know. Because in the mirror universe, the Vulcans show up after Cochrane's test flight, and they basically hijacked the Vulcan ship and killed the Vulcans to take their technology, and that in turn led to the Earth Empire. But I'm not I'm not focused on the mirror universe. I'm just focusing on the original Star Trek narrative. So yeah, Tim Pool. Yeah, you can only hope that we do not follow the trajectory of Star Trek narrative wise, because that only means one thing. We would need to have a world war before the space aliens show up and basically set our civilization on the right path. Yep. Well, that's what I have to say about hope for the future. And that's my opinion. And Merry Christmas.